Welcome to the official YouTube channel of Eternia.com. I'm your host AJ, and today we're doing an unboxing and a mini review of the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe, New Eternia Wave 9 Deluxe RAM Man figure. Now, this is the first time that the human battering ram has ever been realized in Masterverse plastic. And he is a heroic warrior, but he wasn't always at first. Way back in the 1982 mini comics, the first encounter between He-Man and Ram Man was a confrontation. It was a big battle. And Ram Man was a bit dim-witted like always, and he didn't trust He-Man at first. But they both became allies against Skeletor, and in the end, Ram Man became He-Man's friend. But let's spring through this intro and first take a closer look at this packaging. So as we take a closer look at this fantastic artwork on this packaging, I need to let you know that the artist responsible for this great artwork is no one other than our friend Eamon O'Donoghue. Now, Eamon was on the For Eternia podcast a month or so ago, and he actually talked about this Ram Man artwork. And I'll put a link at the end of the video in case you haven't listened to the podcast yet. But Eamon, I remember he was saying that he found Ram Man like a challenge to get right because he's such a unique, heroic warrior. He's small in stature, but he's oversized from the waist up, and he has these like massive arms and these massive hands. And I think it was just a challenge to get it right because he's not your usual, human anatomy. But boy, did Eamon get Ram Man right. I mean, look at this profile here. And this is the normal profile shot that you always see on the spine of Masterverse packaging. And you see this great Ram Man, and then you see these alternate heads that we're going to get to in a minute. And then look on the back, right? It's just great action shot. And we have Ram Man like bursting through this wall. And I'm not sure what kind of wall this is. It looks like there's two Eternian guards behind him, but it's such a great shot. I wouldn't even love to see this on like the cover of something, but so great. All right, so let's now check out this New Eternia bio. So the bio reads, Ram Man, human battering ram. A one-man wrecking crew, the hard-headed warrior known as Ram Man can break down any door, crumble any tower, and even turn a mountain into rubble. For a price, of course. He is untrusting of anyone, but has a reputation as being a man of his word. The battle charger and last of the stone skulls searches New Eternia for clues to his long-lost lineage. Now, after reading that cool bio, it's time to ram through this packaging and take a closer look. So here is the Wave 9 Masterverse Ram Man in 360 degrees out of the box. And so far, I'm overall liking what I'm seeing in regards to presentation and paint application. I really love the metal paint color here on his helmet and on his shoulder armor, breastplate, the gauntlets, and the belt buckle. It really has a nice black wash to it and really makes it pop and look like realistic metal. But I wish I could say the same thing in regards to his red tunic and his brown leather belt. To be honest with you, it looks a little flat here, like it's missing some color. His red tunic has a little bit of a dirty black wash to it, but I think it needs more, like these rivets need some extra paint. And definitely these straps, right? These corset ties, I think could use an additional color. So I'm not loving that. The green pants I think is fine, but I do love these brown boots here. Wow. They got a nice black wash to it, brown wash to it. I don't know. It looks like real leather. And then they have these like metal tips on the front. And those I'm really, really digging. I think they really, really look cool. All right, so let's stop making Ram Man dizzy and take a closer look at that head sculpt. So here is Ram Man's head and face up close. And this is a winner. Look at the dents and the shading in the helmet. And I love that we can see his red tunic between his breastplate and his helmet. And we'll check out that head articulation in a minute. But look at Ram Man's face. How great is that face? Look, I got nothing but love for anyone who loves the classics figure Ram Man. And it is a great figure, no doubt about it. But I never liked that face of his. Did any of you watch the HBO series, The Sopranos? Do you remember... Geez, I'm going to have to censor his name. Do you remember the character Big Puss? Classics Ram Man looked exactly like Big Puss to me. It was uncanny. So no, that was not my optimal look. Plus, it came with this alternate head that I wasn't a fan of from 2000X series without the helmet on. And I was like, nope, nope, nope. That's not my Ram Man personally. And I have nothing but love to anyone who disagrees. But this face here, this face is my Ram Man. So since we're talking head sculpts, we should look at the other two alternate heads that come with this figure, because 3 heads are better than 1. Now, if you remember, this is a new Eternia figure, which means it's often, not always, but often a design based on classic concepts, discarded concept art that was never realized in the final vintage figure. And if you go back to the original Mark Taylor artwork for Ram Man, you could find these 2 different looks, and it's so cool. Now, on the left here, we have Ram Man's shredder look. I'll get you, you turtles. You know what he actually looks like to me? He looks like one of those medieval executioners, the ones that behead the guilty. And he certainly has the axe for it, doesn't he? But look at the eyebrows here and the eyes. Yeah, those are actually different than the first head sculpt, which is really cool. They could have went the cheaper Vicron Classics option here, where they only have 1 head, but then the helmet and the hair would be pieces that you replaced. But here, what they did with Ram Man, with different alternate heads, you can have slightly different expressions, and it's really cool. So that's a great job for Masterverse. Now, on the right here, we have this visored look, and while I really dig the look itself, I'm really bummed because this head has some really sloppy paintwork. I mean, look at the orange everywhere. And look, it's everywhere. It's even on the back here, on the top. So this is really frustrating. And I really hope I'm going to be able to rub this off. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I guess we'll see. But otherwise, it's a good head sculpt. It just has some majorly sloppy paint, and I hope yours won't be the same. All right, so let's check out the articulation. So Ram Man and Articulation has a torrid history, right? Even from the beginning, back in the 80s, Ram Man has never had great articulation compared to the rest of the figures in the line. And this was the line that hardly had great articulation to begin with back in the 80s. But I remember playing with my vintage toy Ram Man, and he could hardly do much in regards to articulation. I think I remember I could swivel his arm like so. But other than his action feature, he was kind of useless. He always had less articulation, and this Ram Man is no different in regards to Masterverse. Now, it has a lot better articulation than that original vintage toy, but you still lose some articulation here. Oh, look, I can't even move at the wrist. But I guess what are the main concerns, right? We want to know about the legs and the head. You want to know if there's a free range of movement regarding the head because you have this big armor piece. Unfortunately, it looks like you can swivel it 360 degrees. And you do have some posability here with the head. But what's really interesting is these legs. These legs here have like these soft rubber coils. And underneath feels like Masterverse legs. I mean, like it feels like, say, Revelation He-Man legs. And you could go ahead and articulate and bend at the knees and so forth. You're a Ram Man figure. I'm not sure if you'd want to go ahead and pose them this way. Actually, this one's a little stiff. Look at that. Come on. There we go. I'm not sure if you'd want to pose them this way, but you can. But my biggest concern actually is the material here. This like rubber coils. It feels very... it feels too pliable and too delicate. And I really wonder, in regards to time, years down the road, 5 years, 10 years, if this is actually going to degrade. This feels like a weak kind of rubber. I guess time will tell. But other than that, he's Ram Man, so don't expect great articulation out of this figure. When it comes to accessories, Ram Man comes with the 2 additional heads that we covered before. He comes with a pair of gripping hands. And Ram Man comes with his iconic battle axe, as well as an additional armor harness. So here is Ram Man sporting his first alternate look, and this is with the first alternate head and his battle axe, and it has that sort of executioner feel to him. And I really, really dig this look. But the one thing I want to point out, because I'm not sure if it comes across camera, but his helmet colors doesn't actually match his armor colors here. You know, the helmet itself has this sort of purple hue here and then a blue hue here, where the armor just has silver metallic. And it doesn't quite coincide. It's not a deal breaker. I still think it looks cool to me, but I just wonder why that is. So here's the second alternate look of Ram Man, and he's got that visor look, and he's got this battle harness on, and he's wearing this breastplate underneath. Unfortunately, this is not removable, and like Clawful, I'm not a big fan of putting armor on top of armor. Granted, it looks better here than it does with Clawful, I think, considering the bulkiness of the character, but I'm just not a fan of this look, so I don't think I'm going to be displaying it this way. But also be advised that this harness actually allows you to hold the X on his back. And finally, we have a size comparison between New Eternia RAM Man and New Eternia He-Man. And if you notice, RAM Man is coming in shorter. But that's staying true to his vintage roots. The vintage figure was shorter than the He-Man counterpart. And even in the 1983 Filmation series He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, Ram Man was shorter than He-Man. I think it was only later in that 2000 X series where they actually made Ram Man larger than He-Man. I think the classics, they were around the same size, but this is just following its vintage roots, and I like that. One more thing. On the rear of the alternate head, the executioner head, Ram Man has a key, a golden key on the back of his helmet, and I have no idea what that could be. Could that be a key to his heart? So what do I think of the Masterverse, Masters of the Universe, Wave 9 New Eternia Deluxe Ram Man figure? Ultimately, I am a fan. Now, I do have some complaints, mostly with just the paint application here. I did get that real sloppy orange paint on one of the alternate heads with the visor. And I believe the paint application could have been better here on the red tunic, like these ties here and the rivets. And on the brown belt, it could have made it look more leather looking, just like those boots. But still, the good outweighs the bad here for me. And Ram Man is yet another figure in Wave 9 that will get the 2 thumbs up from me and a job well done in regards to design, creativity, and that head sculpt. I just love that head sculpt. So that's it. I want to thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.